Alright, today we're just going to do a little intro to exponents, which I hope for most of us is just a review of what we already know, just to bring it back to the forefront of our memories. So let's start out with a few definitions. I want to talk about standard form first of all. Standard form is just the way we normally write our numbers. So the number 25 is going to be written with a 2 in the tens place and a 5 in the ones place. So 25 is just 25 or 25. Today, when we're talking about exponents and expanded form, we're talking about a power written as the product of its common factor or base. So 5 raised to the second power in expanded form would just be 5 times 5. Exponential form, well, a number is in exponential form when it is written with a base and an exponent. So 25, since it was 5 times 5, would be written as 5 to the second power. An exponent is the little number that tells how many times the base is used as a factor. The base is also referred to the common factor, also known as the big number. When we talk about a power today, we're talking about the number produced by raising a base to an exponent. So let's just stick with that 5 to the second power and let's talk about the parts. Well, the exponent is the little number. Remember, the little number tells us how many times we're going to use the common factor or the base. The base in this case is 5. It's the large number, and it's the number that we're going to multiply repeatedly, however many times the exponent tells us to. The power, when we talk about the power, that's this entire thing. It's the base and the exponent. So remember, a power is a number produced by a base being raised by an exponent. Let's take a look at what we're going to do today, just to review. We're going to take a number that's in expanded form and write it in exponential form. So here, looking at this, it's all 5s, so we know that our common factor or our base is 5. 5 is being used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, so this would be written as 5 to the 7th power. Here we have negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. So our common factor or our base is negative 4. It's being multiplied times itself 3 times, so we would have an exponent of 3. So we'd have negative 4 to the 3rd power. Our next example has 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 times p times p times p. Well, there's two different bases. The first one is 8, and the second one is the variable p. So 8 is being used 1, 2, 3, 4 times, so 8 has an exponent of 4. P is being used 1, 2, 3 times, so it has an exponent of 3. So in exponential form, this would be 8 to the 4th power, p to the 3rd power. The other thing we're going to be doing today is simplifying powers, or just solving. So here we have 3 to the 4th power, and this is in exponential form. The first thing we want to do is write it in expanded form. So that means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. The next thing we want to do is to go ahead and multiply this. When we do, we end up with the number 81. So 3 to the 4th power is equivalent to 81. Here we have 1/2 as a base and an exponent of 2. When we write it in expanded form, we have 1/2 times 1/2. Well, if we remember our rules for multiplying fractions, we multiply the numerators first, so 1 times 1 is 1. Then we multiply the denominators, 2 times 2 is 4, so we have the number 1/4. So 1/2 to the second power is 1/4. Next is negative 8 raised to the second power. And notice that negative 8 is in parentheses, and that's significant. So when we write it in expanded form, we're going to have negative 8 times negative 8. Well, remember your integer rules. A negative times a negative is a positive. 8 times 8 is 64, so we have a positive 64. Our next example is also a negative number, but if you notice, it does not have the parentheses around it. So when we write this in expanded form, it comes out a little bit different. Here we have negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 2. So when it doesn't have the parenthesis around it, our first factor is going to be negative 1. And then it's going to be 2 to the third power. So it's really negative 1 times 2 to the third power. If we do 2 to the third power, we get 8. 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. So we have negative 8. When you have a negative raised to a power and it's not inside a parenthesis, it's always going to be a negative number. If you have a negative number and it is in parentheses and it's raised to a power, it depends on what that exponent is. If that exponent is even, you're going to have a positive answer. If that exponent is negative, you will have a negative answer. I hope this helps a little. As always, if you have questions, reach out to us, and have a good one.